Ugh, my hair a bit messy, and I'm kind of bored, but everyone's gonna be weighing in on the TikTok ban, and I don't think it's gonna happen. I listened to the arguments like all today, pretty much for I think since it started. Let me close the door, make sure I'm not making any noise, being loud. I don't think it's gonna happen, largely because they were talking about how the bill wants to restrict specific types of content just in general without really there being, I feel like national security. Like I feel like that they have not proven the national security aspects of that being threatened. And I even think they mentioned how the remedy could have been a disclaimer that China or whoever was manipulating their algorithm or something. So I think on those portions of it, I think that it's not getting banned, and I actually think like they're just going to rule on it and deem the law unconstitutional. I actually, at the very least, they're going to do a stay. The stay is definitely happening. They definitely seemed willing to give that, I think. But honestly, I could see them just shutting down the whole bill and saying, no, this is unconstitutional. It's a power grab. It's, you know, this, that, and the other. It's touching people's livelihoods. They even made an interesting argument comparing TikTok to like someone working with, the British Broadcast Center, BBC, and working with what was it, Al Jazeera they mentioned, and how those are technically government entities. People have to disclose that they're working for them, but like there's no like rule on that. Um, I even mentioned like Shein and Temu actually that came up in court today about how they collect like a lot of the same data that they do, and there's no ban there. So I feel like on the grounds that one, that the ban is unfairly targeting one company, that it is banning, that there wasn't other remedies looked at before. um and I think there's even another question that didn't get asked today, and honestly it's a question that I'm like surprised. Does the government have the ability to restrict what data I give someone? Why that question should be asked, actually. I'm actually shocked it didn't come up. Does the government have that ability alone? Do they get to decide what data I'm allowed to give someone? Because obviously I can't give someone else's data. Like obviously, there's privacy issues like giving someone else, but my own personal data, I know obviously there's certain laws with like minors and stuff, but generally as an adult, this, that, and the other, um, you know, how much can the government even regulate what data I'm giving to someone? And if they're not allowed to do it, then that alone shuts the bill down. It shuts down even the national security concerns. But I think just on the basis that they want to regulate content and the algorithm, and that TikTok would be unable to. And also another very, very good argument that actually Justice Jackson brought up was the freedom of association. Because we talk about freedom of speech a lot, but there's also a big aspect of freedom of association, associating who you want to with as a company, that I think should really also be looked into. TikTok decided that ByteDance was their best, that they get, they have the source code, for example. I think that alone could bolster their argument. Just the inability to do business with another company, I think would, or to have the same exact algorithm and to have user ability and satisfaction with the app, I think could really bolster their argument as well, that their business would be super negatively impacted. The government kind of BS'd, I feel like, saying that it would be the exact same algorithm in the arguments today, which it really wouldn't be, because there would be stuff that's banned. There would be, they specifically in that bill don't even really talk about data collection. And also another point that was brought up by TikTok was they're not even requiring TikTok to delete any of the data that they had already gotten. So there's also that aspect. So I think just on all those merits alone, that the Supreme Court is just going to shut this thing down. I think, and I'm actually thinking it's going to be like a pretty substantial margin ruling in TikTok's favor. I actually think it could be a 9-0 decision. I think that this was a very, very broad abuse of power. I think that it would open a Pandora's box to ban other apps that just say things that the government doesn't like. Um, you know, I feel like just the data that they're concerned about, and they did acknowledge that the data is a concern, but like there's other, like, first of all, there's just a ton of other ways to do that. I just think that's just inherently the risk of the internet is your data's out there for anybody to see, honestly. That is just always inherently a risk. Whether it be my own government knowing what I'm doing or the Chinese government or whoever. Um but I think finally the final point that I would even argue is they just didn't show that allowing this app would harm America enough. That would harm Americans citizens enough. I feel like that is the aspect that I feel like when they even made this bill that they really didn't argue enough about. They're like, oh, the Chinese were able to, spy on journalists. Well, our own government spies on journalists all the time, by the way. And you don't hear about it. They worked with Facebook during COVID and all that stuff, telling them what to take down. So, um, I just don't think the national security aspects argument is even strong enough, let alone the free speech issues in this case. So I feel like on both of those grounds, it's super weak, and I don't think the courts can rule in their favor. I could see them maybe giving a stay if they wanted to look into it a little bit more, just to have a little more clarification. But honestly, I don't see them ruling in favor of the government whatsoever. This bill's getting shut down, and you know, at the very minimum, they're getting to stay. I think. I don't think it's going to happen on the 19th. I think there's just too big of question to just have quickly, and I just feel like there's a lot that would go into a divestiture, especially with user data and data centers and transferring it all over. Like it's not just like I can hit send and it's all over there. Like it's a process. Like there's a lot. So, anyways, that is kind of just my quick take on that. Thank you.